Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Pineapple Podcast, where it's all about being tough on the outside, sweet on the inside, and wearing your crown of gratitude proudly. Today, we have a very special guest, Stephanie Pinero. Stephanie is a lady that came into the real estate world wanting to discover what real estate is all about. She has since been able to transition out into from her 9 to 5 into becoming a full-time real estate investor, as well as doing other sources of income so that she's a true born and bred entrepreneur now. Stephanie, please welcome to the Pineapple Podcast.
Hi, Mitch. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me, and I'm really happy to be here.
Wonderful. Well, we're looking forward to chatting with you because, as you know, a lot of the folks that look at this Pineapple Podcast, they're really in that journey of, can I transition? How do I transition out from basically being where I am to get to a better place and using real estate as their tool for getting that? Now, obviously, you got to build a plan because you can't go and quit your job cold turkey. Never advised. But you gotta build that out. So tell us a little bit about your backstory in terms of how did you come into real estate?
So I kind of started dabbling in real estate, not purposefully as an investor, but back in about 2017, I was looking to purchase my own home. And I found the perfect dream house. I wanted it. I made an offer, and I somehow got cheated out of that property. I wasn't allowed to compete for it. So basically the realtors double dipped and sold it to their own client. So I was very, very disappointed, and I just kept looking for houses. And I couldn't find the right one. I had fallen in love with that house. And at that time, my realtor, who's now a really, really dear friend, he told me, why don't you build that same house? You love that house. Why don't you build it? And I had no idea about building or investing in real estate or anything. So I thought it was the craziest idea. But as I kept looking for this perfect house, I couldn't find it. So I actually took his advice, and I said, okay, are you going to help me and guide me through the process? And he said yes. And so I actually ended up buying a lot, like a teardown home, and ended up building my dream house, which is this one here. So that was my very first dabble in real estate, and it was sort of accidental. But then as I went through that process, I fell in love with construction and building and the whole like before and after journey, and I loved it. And then after that, I ran into the Keyspire network, which is a large educational network for real estate. And I looked into that and ended up joining, and it all kind of snowballed from there.
I love it. So the accidental investor, and you went through a great strategy, which is build your own home. Then you networked into your education and getting involved in the community, which is really the main ingredient here. Is in order for you to learn, grow, and scale, you got to invest in yourself. You got to find the right people around you so that you can learn from, you can network, and you can develop. So I absolutely love your backstory for sure. So tell us now, what was the journey like? So you've done the building, you realize I love this, but did you get straight into further development? Did you do other strategies? Where was your sort of your journey in that respect?
Yeah, so not that I completely recommend, but I did kind of go all into development right away.
Nice.
Then, yeah, the next thing that I did was, so after having built my house, I don't think it was even done, but I kept in touch with my realtor, my friend, and he also had an interest in development. So we said, why don't we do this again, but in a larger scale? Like we know the process, we know how it works. So what we did, and with his help, we put a group of investors together, to purchase another property here. I'm in Vancouver, so most of my projects are here in Vancouver. So we purchased the property and turned that one into 3 homes. So here you can stratify one single lot and stratify into 3 separate titles, and then sell them as 3 separate homes. So we did that with another group of investors, and that was sort of my first big project. But as I was learning in Keyspire about all the other things that I had no idea that you could do, I also started doing things on my own. I started private lending, investing in private equity, investing with registered funds, which I had no idea you could do before. I purchased a multifamily apartment building, and that was, when I joined Keyspire, that was sort of my big lofty goal to own a multifamily building.
Beautiful.
I had even had that idea when I was, I don't know, way back in my 20s. I was like, one day I want to own an apartment building. I don't know why, it was just in my head. So that was my big like future goal, and it was actually one of the first things that I did after joining Keyspire. So I started doing that. I think of it like on the side, because that was all my own just personal investment stuff, and then I was doing the development with partners.
So Steph, yeah, I want to, I want to compliment you because you basically took on all the advanced strategies from day one. You embraced it, but a couple of things I want to point out for our viewers as well is you didn't know it, but you had the mindset, the ambition, the heart to go do it. But you did it confidently because you had people around you that could help guide you. And I think from what you're saying, it sounds like your agent is a big piece of that. Then you're able to network and do some of these amazing opportunities for sure. And this is the power of real estate, is that you can bring groups together. You can find people together. You talked about the Keyspire network, and I am also part of that. And as you know, that is really a bunch of like-minded people. And the things that they can do is incredible. So the fact that you've gone through that process to bring yourself up, I absolutely love it. Now, one of the key things, as you know, with a lot of people looking for improvements, now, people can do many things. They can become stock market experts. They can set up businesses. There's so many opportunities for people to become entrepreneurs, do their own thing, and then get the freedom they want. But for the average folk, if you come into the real estate space, which is what we're about, there's so much opportunities to learn. There's so much you can do that can build it out. But I'm sure people are pretty stoked or want to understand now. So what was the transition plan for you? How did you recognize, okay, I'm at a stage now with my real estate journey where I really want to be able to do this full time, and I can now let go of the 9 to 5 that I'm doing?
Yeah, so honestly, like you said, like it's not an easy transition, and you shouldn't just do it. I focused a lot on building my passive income in the beginning, especially with the build of this house. I have a basement suite that I rent out. I have a laneway house that I rent out. So it brings me rental income. Then the multifamily apartment building that gives me cash flow every month. And all the private lending, the private equity investments. So I started building my passive cash flow, and that gave me sort of what I needed to give me the freedom to start looking at other things and bigger projects, at leaving my 9 to 5. At that point, I had been working. I was always an entrepreneur-ish. I for the last 10-15 years, I was working on my own. I had my marketing business, but it was really just myself. So I always had that freedom of time to look into other things and to do sort of what I really wanted to do. But it wasn't until I started building that passive, it's not entirely passive, but more passive income, that I felt comfortable to start looking at leaving the actual 9 to 5 job, which, I mean, we we it doesn't mean we stop working 9 to 5. It's more like now we work 24 hours a
That's right.
day, but at least it feels now like all the work that I do is the work that I want to be doing. And and I do lots of different things, but it's all the things that I choose to do.
And I think that's one of the most important thing that we need to unpack here, because for me, mindset is one of the key things. And like you say, when you come into this space of doing it on your own or becoming an entrepreneur, you're looking for multiple sources of income. You're working twice as hard, probably twice as long. But the reward coming from the fact that you control your own destiny, that you can figure out a plan that gives you multiple sources of income through your property, the home property, the multifamily, even going back and doing a bit of contract work really allows you to enjoy that mental satisfaction of knowing that you're controlling your own destiny and you have the ability for unlimited income. I mean, the harder you work, the more you can earn, right? And you know, some of the things I've looked at and I train people on as well is you got to set the plan in motion, but then you got to take the action. And taking the action is really what drives you as an entrepreneur in order to demonstrate success. But it's not for the faint of heart. You are going to be more involved in the business, but the satisfaction coming from knowing that you're in control of what you're doing and the fact that there's no ceiling on your income. Like in a 9 to 5, you know, everybody has to start off someplace, and majority of people are in that environment. You're capped. You can work as hard as you want to work. Your salary is still your salary. You still have a reporting structure in most cases that frustrates a lot of people. So if you're looking for a change, you know, we're not sugarcoating anything here, guys. It's really you making the decision, get the education, follow up with other people, network, build a team so that you can push forward in the space that you want to get into, right? The reward is
Yeah.
there. But like we say, it's not like snapping your fingers. You got to make plans every step of the way so that you can continue your comfortable living and then get into strategies that's going to accelerate. And Steph, I want to touch base on this land development. So you talked about the fact that you took a project now and you did, is it 8 units you did on one of the projects, right? From a viewer's perspective as well, what are some of the, you know, not looking at exact numbers, but give people a sense of what is the kind of investment in money and time that you would take in order to develop a piece of land, you know? And I like the idea that you're not looking for crazy numbers of doors, like 8, 10 units. That's an amazingly great space to start with.
For sure. It obviously really depends on the location of the property. Because, for example, I have my 8 stack townhouse development in Vancouver. So in terms of monetary investment, we basically bought 2 lots for $3 million. So it's quite a bit, but it's Vancouver.
Yes.
And those lots, those townhouses are going to sell for a lot more than they would somewhere else. And just to compare, I'm building 8 single-family homes on the Sunshine Coast, and we bought that property for 1.2 million. So very different. And also in the Sunshine Coast, we're expecting the whole project to be maybe 2 years long, and the one in Vancouver, we've already been working on it for 2 years and we haven't even started building. So these are very different projects, very different timelines. But in the end, they kind of, on a yearly ROI, they sort of work similarly. So it just takes longer, but then it means you're making money for longer. So I try to stack my projects so that I'm kind of starting and finishing one every couple years. So far it's worked out that way.
Absolutely. That's brilliant because you're absolutely right. Market or location really determines price. But I love the fact that, as you say, you know, on one side it's $3 million for a couple lots, and then the other side it's is it $1.5 million, right? So
1.2 for a land for 8 lots. So
right.
it's quite different. Yeah.
quite the difference. But at the end of the day, it's the end value, right? What is it going to be worth? Timeline is really important to understand, because for those of you who are thinking about land development as well, you have to prepare to go through the process with the city approval, and that can take years sometimes, because there's a series of studies that has to be done. You got to get all the drawings done. You got to submit. It's going to be a lot of back and forth. So be prepared for the carrying cost on that. It's not for the faint of heart. You got to really plan properly. And again, I keep focusing on planning. For me, planning business development is really the core for when you want to advance yourself, right? Like a lot of people come into the space in real estate, they get 1 or 2 houses, and that's perfect. They can even get up to 3 to 4, 5 properties, they rent it out. That's going to be life-changing for them. But the minute you decide, I want to make this into a business, I want to run land development, I want to scale, I want to buy multifamily, you're into business now. And, even with my background in the corporate world, I spent a lot of time with business planning. And that's one of my core focus as well, is I want people planning. I want to see their plans. I want to understand what resources they have. What are the gaps? How are you going to close those gaps, right? Because this is how you win in business. So I love what you're sharing with us. I think it's phenomenal to understand that this can actually move your business forward in a significant way. So good on you. And the other piece that I want to touch a bit on again, because I think it's quite interesting, is, like you said, when you started learning about strategies that were not even aware, that you were not even aware of, that you started implementing, and I think that also gives a new flavor, because now you're seeing implementation from knowledge. You've invested in yourself, you've learned something, you implemented it, and it returned it to you. So that is what you call a true investment in yourself, right? People feel sometimes, oh, I'm spending money. No, you're investing money because you're going to make that money back, right? Way better than putting it in the bank.
No, absolutely. And there's a lot of things that I didn't know. And I did kind of go all in the beginning, and I tried it all. I like to think of it as the difference between amateur me and more professional me. So when an amateur kind of tries it all until they get it right, and now as a more professional me, I do it until I can't get it wrong. So the difference is, at the beginning I was trying a lot of things, and I found the things that work, and now I know what works, and I'm working in a way that there's no way it can't work. So I've found what works, what didn't work, the things that I liked, the things that I didn't like, and now I feel like I'm way more focused and educated and experienced, and I'm just going in the one direction.
No, I absolutely love that, because you're right. There is there is a stage in which you reach when you're developing this level of business, that you have to become professional. You have to have the right people around you, so that you're making the right decisions all the time. So now you're looking at, I'm spending money, but I'm returning money because this is what the project needs, right? And when you transition out full time, that's why you transition out full time. It's also, there is a real need in your business for you to be fully dedicated. You cannot run a multi-million-dollar business on a part-time basis. Maybe there are a few people who can do it, and I'm sure, after making that statement, people might reach out. But honestly, in real estate, you really have to be dedicated. There is a lot of players, there's a lot of moving pieces, and there's a lot of risks that you're managing. So in order to sort of alleviate yourself from exposing risk, when you're able to transition out full time, you can do that, because part of your costing as well is taking care of your company or your income, so that you can be present, so that your investors are safeguarded. And I think that's one of the main things, is when we talk about other people's money or investor money and things like that, what we're really talking about is people that are trusting you with their hard-earned money.
Yeah, and that's huge. Yeah,
it is. And that's one of the things I want to bring out in our conversation too, because we should not slight the fact that somebody's investing with you. You got to treat them with far more respect, and the fact that they're trusting you with their hard-earned money, because they want to grow as well. They just don't have the time to do it. So this is where partnerships come into. And for us, like maybe you can share with us too, how does Stephanie work out the fact that people um, are trusting in you? What are some of the things you do that's a little bit different to give people peace of mind as you go in a project together?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the biggest piece in real estate investing. And once you start bringing other people's money, it just changes everything. I did, like I said, I took some risks and I did a lot of things in the beginning, but that was all my own money, and I was willing to kind of figure it out that way. But now that I've started taking investors' money, it's very different. I wasn't ready to take investors' money until very recently. In the past, I had partnered with people. We kind of came together and said, okay, we're going to do this together. Um, and now only recently in my last project is when I started actually taking investors' money, completely passive investors, and I'm in control along with my partners who are very, very experienced. We're in control of the project, and we're taking care of that money, and we're making sure that they get good returns, and we're fully just responsible for that money. So that was a huge piece for me, and it was hard to get over the fact that I was going to be in charge of these people's hard-earned money. Um, and I think, like you asked, what do I do differently? One thing that I think I did differently was for the first 4 5 years, like I started building relationships, but there was no intention to raise money from these relationships or anything. I really just started getting to know people in the real estate community. I wasn't raising money in the beginning, which I think is a very big differentiator, because a lot of people are raising money and they're starting to build those relationships because eventually they want your money. But in the beginning, I really had no need to raise money. So all the people that I talked to, it was very genuine. I wasn't looking for an investor per se. I really just started getting to know people. I made a lot of friends. We shared a lot of information. There was no there was no other sort of interest. So I really built a lot of good relationships, and that really helped me when I did come to raise money. They were just ready. They said, I've been hearing about all that you're doing, just because I was sharing with them. And a lot of people have been saying, tell me when you have a project, because I want to invest with you. And sometimes I just don't even have a project. But it was just these genuine connections that I think were the big difference, that I wasn't just trying to raise money and make friends with people because of that. I just, yeah, had a genuine interest in the relationship.
Yeah, I love the fact that you've built the relationship over time. And one of the key things too, I think people need to understand is, especially since the government has kind of done a lot of pushed a lot of money into the economy since the COVID time to now, money is readily available. There is, they made a lot of money or access to money for a lot of people. The challenge you have is finding the right deals and finding competent people that can bring those deals to the finish line, right? So while we talk about the fact that there is a need on your side to find the funds to complete a project, on the flip side, you're also giving people within your network the opportunity to make money on their money that they would never make otherwise. The banks up and down, you never really get ahead. RSP in this country, people just don't give a crap about it. They just simply put it there because they know they get a tax credit every year from it. And very few people are able to really realize something out of it. Only when you come to realize in such a network that you can actually make significant profits with your RSP money, so that when you retire, it actually gets to the point where it can actually double, sometimes triple.
Yeah, it's a pretty crazy difference when you're looking at just leaving it in the bank and whatever the bank recommends, which is earning you maybe 2-3%. I don't know. Some people are happy right now because the GICs are making 5%. But compared to
Yeah.
real estate, where you can really be pretty safely making 10% or more, and just the compound effect of that
That's right.
throughout
And
the
you can
year.
get that income on a monthly basis in some instances. Not
Hmm.
RSP, of course, but there's so much that you can do and you can learn, right? And I think that's the key for people. So getting in fact in front of the right working partners is also important. Money is readily available, but deals and the ability to find people who can bring those deals to the finish line is the key component. And you
It
really bring tremendous value to their lives by helping them because they can continue their jobs. They can continue doing whatever they want to do. It's a true way of getting money on the passive side because you've
yeah,
taken the
yeah.
action to become
It is truly
active.
passive. Yeah, they work maybe for a couple hours when they're transferring the money, and then it's passive for however long the project is. So
Yeah, so
so
it's a
it's
true
really
partnership.
passive. Hmm. Hmm.
Yes, absolutely. And I just wanted to reinforce that because a lot of times people don't realize that the value that a working partner brings. Like without you, the job can't be done. It can't be on budget. It can't be done in the right timelines. So much things that you as a person with money don't have the skill set to do. So it's always good to find the right partners. Uh,
Yeah, that is huge, finding the right working partner, because I've had bad experiences, also lending to the wrong partners. I've learned now, but I think it's sometimes hard to know who to invest with, and it is probably the most important part is who you're investing with and their ability to bring a project to the finish line successfully.
Absolutely. Couldn't say it any better than that. So, Steph, tell us now. So, what's in the future for you? Are you looking to continue the land development space? Do you have one or two markets in mind? Or are you looking to broaden your strategy? What does the future look like for you from this point in time?
Yeah, honestly, I feel like I'm just starting in the land development space. I think there's so much more to look forward to, and I've found the right partners that I'm sticking with that I trust dearly. And I think we're just getting started, and I love the BC market. I know it's not the most popular. Well, Vancouver is not the most popular in land development because it is so um, cash intensive. But I really like the Vancouver market. I want to continue building here, and I love that I can go and drive and see the project any day. And but I also like the smaller markets around BC, so I see myself doing more stuff around there. And definitely larger projects. I don't have excuse me, I don't have a goal to do like huge towers and huge developments, but I think slowly larger projects and just building great communities and doing cool. So definitely focusing on land development for the future.
Absolutely. I love that. I mean, the land development space is really important, especially in Canada, where there's such a shortage right now of properties or houses. So lots of things coming down from the government as well. So you guys can check that out. I know they announced for at least in the Ontario market, I'm sure it's going to be across the country at some point in time, where there's no GST or GST rebate for developing as well. So lots of exciting things on the development side, but like you said, you got to make sure that you're partnered up with the right people, because it is a space too where if it goes wrong, it can go wrong badly. But if you do the right research, you find the right people, you can make an absolute ability for you to get out of your 9 to 5 and do this on a full-time basis. So,
Yeah.
Steph, I want to thank you very much for coming here on the Pineapple Podcast. We absolutely loved conversing with you today because you've given us so much insight, like, land development, multifamily strategies, and branching out from your 9 to 5 into your full-time space. So, any last words from you as we part on this episode?
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you very much for having me, and it was really fun to share. And I just want to say I'm happy to always share and help anyone who's just starting or who wants to talk about anything that I talked about, anything real estate, anything entrepreneurship. I'm always happy to have a chat.
Brilliant. So, folks, thank you once again. Remember to hit the like, subscribe, and notify button. Please share this episode with anyone you think that's interested in learning more about real estate. And at the Pineapple Podcast, it's all about being tough on the outside, sweet on the inside, and wearing your crown of gratitude proudly. Have a great day. Bye.
Sure. Thank you.